You know the saying, it's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. That could have very well been the title of our latest ESET threat report as cybercriminals started playing new mind games with their victims, fighting against each other full-on deathmatch wrestling cage style. But they also became a game for law enforcement and private vendors who were hunting them down, one criminal group after another. My name is Ari Goretzky, and I'm ESET's distinguished researcher and the host of the ESET Research Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to play some of these gaming topics with one of our ESET Threat Report authors, our own producer and ESET Security Awareness Specialist, Andrei Kubovich. Hey, Andrei, thanks for joining us today.
Harry, thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you could take time out of your schedule to come and join us today. I've got to start with one threat that's been particularly annoying to me because I've been seeing so many people that have been affected by it. This is something that's been just skyrocketing in our telemetry over about the past year, about the past 12 months. And that's the HTML fake CAPTCHA malware. From the name, we can guess that this is something about annoying verifications for saying, who's a human, who's a bot, right?
It's almost the same thing as the one that you know. So like rewriting blurry text or moving puzzles into spaces that you are supposed to have them, or maybe clicking on images of buses, chimneys, blah, blah. But this one doesn't let you on the website without paying a price. So in the end, you get compromised by the attackers.
So what exactly is it that's happening here that's causing the victims to get caught up with these? Do they realize immediately that they're being scammed, or is it something that they don't figure out later until after they've become a victim of the malware?
The thing with fake CAPTCHA is that it abuses this change mechanism that CAPTCHA has, because bots are getting better at solving CAPTCHAs, right? So every, let's say, half a year or every year, the authors of CAPTCHA come up with a new mini challenge that you need to fulfill to get to see the website or to get to a service that you want to get to. And the attackers realize this is a mechanism that we have ingrained in our brains as users. So let's try to abuse that and use it against us. So what they did, they created their own version of this mechanism, and they ask you to click on a big blue button, BBB. And if you do so, you copy something into your clipboard. You don't know it, but it's already there. Then a set of simple instruction follows. So you need to click on Windows key plus R. So this combination, it's like a hotkey. It's going to open your command line. Then you paste what you have in the clipboard into the command line and press enter to run it, right? So what happens if you don't know what you pasted in? You just reached out to attackers' servers or some resource they have online, and you downloaded something malicious that they wanted you to download. It doesn't matter if it's a script, another PowerShell script, if it's maybe some downloader or dropper, installer, some other type of malware that will inadvertently lead you to the final payload in the end.
So it sounds like the criminals here are just taking advantage of users through social engineering. They realize that users are accustomed to following whatever the CAPTCHA tells them pretty much without any thought. They do a copy into their Windows open file dialog, paste it and hit enter, and boom, presto infecto. It seems like such a simple thing, but it clearly is working for these adversaries. They've had a lot of success with this, haven't they?
Yep. I mean, looking at the whole process that you need to go through, it looks like it's complicated. You have to click on the button, you have to do 3 more steps, and then maybe wait for something to happen. But in the end, it seems like this is working really well for the attackers, because the numbers in our telemetry, they skyrocketed, as you said before. 12 months ago, we didn't see it in the telemetry at all. Right now, fake CAPTCHA is number 2 globally. In some countries, it's even number 1. And it has grown over 500% in the last 6 months. The thing here is, it seems to be hitting the sweet spot. Like people don't understand what they are doing, and yet it's simple enough for them to follow.
So where did these come from initially? And who is using them? Is it just one threat actor, one group of criminals? Is it lots of group of criminals? Is there a fake CAPTCHA as a service model here? What's going on?
Surprisingly, cybercriminals started this new technique. It wasn't the APT groups, because that's the typical MO. Like APT groups start to do some new sophisticated technique, and cybercriminals are the lazier ones, so they adopt and learn from them and then use that for the attacks that are going after money. In this case, there was two groups that used it already more than 12 months ago. It was April 2024. It was the TA571. And then ClearFake cluster. Those are initial access brokers, or whatever you want to call them. These are the guys that are just trying to breach into your system and then sell the access to somebody else. The idea originally, it wasn't about CAPTCHAs. It was about fixing an issue with a attachment of an email or of something that you encountered online. So there was this pop-up that was saying, okay, there is an issue that you need to fix. You need to click on the button and then paste the same instructions followed. But it wasn't happening as a CAPTCHA. It was happening on your device, you trying opening an attachment of an email. So that's how it started. Interestingly, it seemed to be working so well that basically all of the cybercriminals have adopted this. And by the end of 2025, it was already seen by the APT groups who figured out how to insert this into their campaigns, starting, not surprisingly in this case, by North Koreans who are really innovative in every possible way to get to your money or to your information. So it was them starting it, but soon the Russia aligned, China aligned, even Pakistani aligned groups have followed and are using ClickFix or fake CAPTCHAs as the infection vector in their campaigns.
This seems like it's very interesting to hear about this, because it seems like a very well-designed technique. Users understand that when a CAPTCHA comes up, they just kind of blindly follow the instructions. They're not realizing that they are, downloading and running a script or an installer or, some kind of a multi-stage download that, eventually leads to their system being compromised, whether it's for gaining access to the company network or info stealing. Because this works in so many stages, there's a lot of places within the industry as security practitioners throughout the ecosystem can just kind of get together and combat this, ranging from blocking the URLs, warning about scripts, checking the buffer when you copy something into it, when you try to paste something into it, analysis of payloads, looking at, what networks you're going to, IP address, ASN, domain, whatever. But fundamentally, it's getting the operating system to run the commands. Is there any progress on the operating system side to protect against, or at least notify or warn users about these types of commands? Disable the command prompt or PowerShell under certain circumstances.
I mean, it would be nice to see that kind of progress, but it would have to come from the makers of the operating systems. So it's not a job for the security industry. We, on our end, as you already mentioned, are doing part of this protection. So we can block the URL, we can block the script, we can even stop the exfiltration of data on the network level. So there are several steps where we can do something for the user and protect them. But when we see how much this technique is being used by the attackers, it certainly is working for a big group of victims. So it probably should have a bigger response from the OS makers, because that's the guys who have the keys.
Well, I understand this is an ongoing threat, but I also understand there's also been some good news in terms of combating this. And ESET is one of the companies that's been involved. And specifically what I'm talking about are the info stealer takedowns, and notice I said takedowns plural, that have been done by a combination of law enforcement and private industry. This kind of refers to that as whack-a-hack. Basically, it's a digital version of whack-a-mole. Can you tell me what's going on there with that?
So if you allow me, I will go a little bit before H1 2025 into the last 6 months of 2024, when we have seen the first, I would say, major takedown in this area. It was the takedown of Redline and MetaStealer, which was done by the European authorities together with private sector. That was the one that took down one of the up-and-coming players. So Redline and Meta, after this thing, they basically stopped working. It was InfoStealer as a service, and right now they were out of the game, right? So what happened? Right after, somebody else stepped in, filled the vacuum, and that was LumaStealer. Why it worked very well for them was that their service had a better level of services that they were offering to the attackers or to the affiliates who were buying their product. So not only the tool was of high quality, but they also offered a forum where the attackers could sell the found or stolen information. This is something that the Redline or Meta didn't have. So that was something that immediately attracted the attackers to LumaStealer and basically made them the leader or another up-and-coming player after Redline and Meta was dismantled.
Let that kind of be a lesson for our listeners. Good customer service is important, whether or not you're a malware vendor or an anti-malware vendor or a info stealing as a service vendor. So they've clearly had some success. You said that LumaStealer rapidly took over from Redline and Meta, who kind of took over from even before that from Agent Tesla, although that's still a bit of a different direction that was focused on. But what happened? What did you find with this takedown?
So as we saw that Luma is taking over the market, we started focusing on them, of course, research-wise, detection-wise, and we collected tens of thousands of samples that we could analyze and start to understand how the threat works. We also collected some CNC servers, so their identifiers, affiliate identifiers, and using that intelligence, we tried to help the law enforcement as much as possible with the technical information and analysis to take down Luma. The thing is, we took them out, sort of, because right after the takedown, if you looked at the botnet data, it was really, really going down and there was almost no interaction with their servers, but that's to be expected when you take them down. But soon after, we have seen signs that the Luma operators didn't want to give up and started rebuilding the infrastructure using providers in Estonia and Russia, which, if we want to do the same thing again, some kind of disruption, it's going to be increasingly difficult because it depends on the hosting companies to help us with the takedown. And I wouldn't expect Russian companies to be very helpful in that matter.
I can certainly believe that, or the various criminal networks, so-called bulletproof hosting, Russian or Russian line, sometimes they're not. But, it's an important point that you bring up. Takedowns sometimes work. Sometimes the disruption is permanent. Sometimes it's only temporary. It's still worth doing, though, isn't it?
Sure it is, because if you take down one of those providers, yeah, there will be somebody else trying to fill their shoes. But on the other hand, for maybe half a year or a year, there's some chaos on the scene. Somebody needs to